The top wholesaling list nobody's talking about. Guys, it's Rick again, and today I'm going to walk you through the 5-step process on how to get the best list possible. I'm going to teach you what it is. I'm going to teach you the process. I'm going to teach you how to pull the criteria. I'm going to show you how to get this list. And last and most importantly, how to market it. But before I get into it, do me a favor, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button so you can get the best information possible on wholesaling today. So what list am I talking about? Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. It's tax delinquencies. I've been doing tax delinquencies since 2003. Why? Because they work. And this is one of my favorite parts of wholesaling. It is a fundamental core of wholesaling. And if you don't attack tax delinquencies, you're missing some of the easiest wholesale deals you'll ever do. Now, you're going to have to work to do it. But guys, I always teach you, you have to look for the fire in wholesale deals. The problem is fire is very low. So if I want to locate a fire, I got to find the smoke because smoke rises. And that's all tax delinquencies are. When I get that tax delinquency list, it's smoking, it's billowing up, and it leads me straight to the fire. I just got to find someone who wants to play ball with me. But why not go to the lowest hanging fruit? If you don't at least attempt it, and you guys are struggling trying to do all these other types of deals, you owe yourself to look at tax delinquencies. So what I want to walk you through are the 5-step process on start to finish on tax delinquencies for wholesaling. So what are property taxes? Well, the United States came up with this beautiful system where if you actually own a house outright, I mean, you pay cash for it or it's given to you, you have to pay this thing called a yearly property tax. And property tax are designed so cities can fund their fire departments, their police departments, and their schools, some of the roadway works. Honestly, it's critical funding. There's been a big argument across the country on possibly eliminating property taxes, but in my opinion, they do that. They're just going to replace it with another tax. So taxes are owed even if they have a mortgage or they own it free, and it's usually come due once a year, depending on what state you're on. They all vary a little bit, but you pay taxes once a year, and they base it on what they assess the value of the property, called a TAV, which stands for tax assessed to value. And they try to be fair and impartial about it, and you have to pay your taxes. So when the tax bill comes up, you've got to pay it. Why? Because they need the money to fund government, and this is for your local cities and counties. And remember, fire department, police department, schools, you get the picture. So this is critical funding, and they cannot be delayed when these bills do not get paid. Now, it's important you understand the process of how tax delinquency works, because this is where most of the confusion lies when it comes to wholesaling tax delinquent properties. And I'm going to walk you through a basic summary of how this works, because most people don't even understand it. Number one, when a homeowner doesn't pay their taxes, so the city or the county does not get delayed, they want to get the money paid as soon as possible. So when a tax bill goes past due, whatever it is, 60, 90, or 120 days, they have what they call a tax certificate sale. And basically what it is they sell the debt to the open public, and people bid on it based on the interest rate. It usually starts at like 18, 19%, and some people go all the way down to 2%. Now, most of the notes are going to hover a little bit higher on the percentages, but some people are okay because they consider this guaranteed income, and it's pretty much backed by the tax certificate, which is the property taxes on the property. Now, sometimes people actually do an investment strategy of buying tax certificates. It has nothing to do with wholesaling. Let me repeat this. A tax certificate sale has nothing to do with wholesaling. You don't hold any power. You are buying debt. You could do this with so many instruments across the country. There's better ways to do it, in my opinion, than just buying tax certificates. So if somebody owes $2,000 on a property tax, say you get a 5% interest rate on it, after 1 year, you basically get the 5% on the $2,000. You do not get the house. Now, a lot of people think, well, if I buy the tax certificate, I can just, and they don't continue to pay their taxes, I can just take the house. That is a myth. It doesn't work that way. If it did work that way, I would buy every tax certificate out there. So let me explain what the next process is in tax delinquency. So number one, I told you the bill goes delinquent. Number two, so the county or the city can raise the money so they can still fund their critical infrastructure, fire department, police department, schools. They have an auction for a tax certificate, and people bid on the interest rate. They go from up to down. Now, I own a tax certificate. I basically have a lien on this house. They place a lien on the property until it's paid. That bill is going to be paid pretty much first. It has the highest priority. That's why people like to invest in them. Remember, it is an investment strategy. In my opinion, you're much better off in like the stock market and other vehicles. I just don't think it's very attractive because the few sales I've gone to, I mean, they're 2 to 4%. Now, a lot of times people will bid, the interest rate will go up on properties. Nobody really has interest because they feel like it's never, ever going to sell because it would have to sell at an auction for them to get paid off on it. Regardless, now I own a tax certificate, right? Most counties after a 2-year period, some are 1, some are even more, is if that tax certificate's not paid on, that lien, then the person that has that tax certificate can apply for a tax deed application. Now, it's a little bit different across the country, but you actually have to go through paperwork and file and say they're in default. I need to cure this. And once they get approved for the tax deed application and they prove all their paperwork, then the county will schedule that property in its current foreclosure auction. And they'll actually, sometimes counties do separate tax deed auctions. You hear that all the time. Once again, guys, that is not wholesaling. But Rick, a tax deed auction is not great. Auctions are a place where the highest bidder wins. And if you want to be the highest bidder, show up to them. Here's how most of them go, so you know. The good properties, if there's a $2,000 lien on it, and say it's a $300,000 property, is once it goes above $2,000, that tax deed or the tax certificate holder, they're cashed out their $2,000 plus their interest. That's it. They have no other rights. And a lot of people think by buying these tax certificates or going to a tax deed auction that they're gaming the system, and you're not. It is a regular foreclosure auction. Anything above the lien actually goes back to the homeowner, less any outstanding liens on the property that have been in full effect before the foreclosure started. Yeah, you can't just go and record a lien when the foreclosure starts because it'll be wiped out. So we have tax delinquency, we have tax certificate, we have tax deed auction, which is basically the foreclosure. And I'm not the guy who's going to sit there and do auctions. And for it, to me, that's pure speculation because you got to pay cash for the property. Now, there are some instances, this is a rare, but when you go to the tax deed auction, nobody bids on the property. Well, why do you think nobody bids on the property? Because nobody wants it. It's probably not a buildable lot. It's probably close to a road. And most of those properties go back to the county and they wind up being county owned. That is going to be an important reference you're going to have to remember for the later part of this video. Remember, the homeowner is always in control until the property is taken away from some sort of judicial movement, being a foreclosure auction or it gets taken away, stripped of the rights. That's how most foreclosures go. So I want you to understand this. Your control is always with the homeowner. It's not with the tax certificate. It's not with the tax deed application, and it's definitely not at the tax deed auction and or foreclosure. So I hope that clarifies that for you because a lot of people mix those up. As a wholesaler, what we want to do is identify properties that are delinquent on their property taxes. Why? Because where there's smoke, there's fire. And honestly, guys, if anyone ever has a motivating factor to get their house sold, it's someone who's behind on property taxes. And here's a little hint. Once they get multiple years behind on property taxes, it's usually a high indication that they're going to lose the property. Hence, the higher motivation. This is why I want you to attack these leads. In my opinion, they are some of the easiest leads you can be put in front of you. The question is, what information do I need to find the best leads possible in tax delinquencies? And how do I attack them? Let's get into it. So let's talk about the third step, which is the criteria for a tax deed. Now, I'm going to go through and show you how to pull them, but I want to carefully go through the criteria. The first criteria is obviously they need to be behind on their taxes. 1 year is not good enough, guys. They're usually a waste of time on 1 year. Now, keep in mind, most people that have a mortgage, that the bank will go ahead and pick up those property taxes and go ahead and move forward with their foreclosure because they don't want to lose their first position on the property. So we want to find someone that's 2 years behind on their property taxes. Why? Because that's the sweet spot. A lot of people will float taxes for a year, especially if they own the property outright. I know I do it. And there's countless people that do it. If they have a mortgage, it's usually built into the escrow on it. So I like to find properties at least 2 years or more behind on property taxes. Why? Because it's indicative of a massive problem and it usually needs a wholesaler's help. Because let's face it, if they wanted to sell it and the house was in great shape, they probably already would have done it. but it's telling you there's probably underlying issues, either financial or the property's distressed. It needs a lot of rehab, and it's not going to fit the typical build that a realtor is going to list on MLS. Criteria number 2, filter out the county-owned properties. They are just a huge waste of time. Listen, if it went to a foreclosure or a tax deed auction and nobody wanted it, why would you want it? It means there's no demand for it. Nobody wants it. That's why it winds up being a county-owned property. If you don't believe me, just look at your local county records and see how many properties the county owns. The list in my area is pretty long, and they're mostly really, really bad properties, meaning you can't build on them, or it's next to a super busy street and there's just nothing you can do. Some have drainage problems, etc. The third one is you obviously want to pick the markets that you want to attack. Now, if you're doing it locally, I always strongly advise always attacking the local market because you have the most intimate knowledge on property values and it's the easiest to assess. Now, doing this virtual, it's a dream because you are grabbing the lowest hanging fruit in wholesaling and you're attacking the most motivated sellers. So you can do this locally or you can do it virtually. I like to do them together because it works well. Now, the last criteria on number 4 is basically make sure you filter out your properties on the average median price. Make sure it's below it in your market. Or you can use the TAV, tax assessed value, which most of these tax delinquency lists, when you pull it, the county will have that information automatically in a column marked TAV, and you can use that as a filter. And the idea is, listen, you're not going to buy multi-million-dollar properties that are behind on property taxes. It's just those properties tend to take care of themselves. I've never bought a property like that. I've been doing this 23 years. I don't want you to waste time. So stay at the average median price or below, or you can use the tax assessed value. You can set it at like 350 or 400. That way you're focusing all your efforts on the best leads possible. And you can take this list, you can do an Excel list, you can do a CSV file. If you don't know how to sort this and do pivot tables, hire somebody on Fiverr. For $20, you can get the whole list done for you and they'll show you how it works. That's how I did it because I have ADHD and it completely overwhelmed me. But guys, I love these lists. I mean, you want to talk about motivation, you're still going to have to find a way to connect to them and market to them. So let's go into step number 4 and talk about how to get the tax delinquency list, because there seems to be a lot of mystery on this one as well. So there's multiple ways to get the tax delinquency list. Honestly, one of the best ways is to go to the source where they're created, and it's going to be your county tax collector's office. Now, that's usually going to be tied next to the DMV, county building permits. It's usually a pretty large office, and they're the ones that hold this golden tax delinquent list. Now, this list used to be a little bit easier to get. It is a public record list because they are property taxes, but I'm just telling you, you're going to have to get past the privacy policy thing. This is where you have to be resourceful as a wholesaler. I don't want you to lie, manipulate, but I think it's ridiculous that we have to over-explain ourselves, that we're current taxpayers and we just want the information we paid for. Remember, they're trying to guard people from reselling the information. And so they're going to filter you out if they think you're a marketer. They're going to give you obstacles to get over. If you want to learn how to overcome these, go over to freewholesaling.com. I teach you how to beat resistance with persistence. Remember, you have to be resourceful as a wholesaler. So I would start at the county tax collector's office and be super sweet. Bring a thumb drive with you and see if they will give you that list. Then keep in mind, you're going to have to sort that list. Now, here's the really cool part is a lot of times counties will try to frustrate you and hand you a PDF list. I don't care anymore. Why? Because I got ChatGPT, I've got Grok. I can sort out any list with AI. Guys, it's a piece of cake. It used to be super complicated. I used to have to hire people. You can do this on your own computer. So don't fret if it's a CSV, an X file, or a PDF. Any type of file you can have converted with AI. Don't forget that. Now, a lot of times when we do virtual wholesaling, we have figured out how to get these tax delinquency lists virtually online, which is super convenient. I highly recommend it to you because it's just like on the tax collector's office. It just makes it super easy. So if I'm in Utah and I'm doing North Carolina, obviously, I'm not going to get in a car and pick up that list. So see if you can get online. Sometimes you have to set up a business account. It's well worth it. Sometimes it's a couple $100. It's worth the price of admission because it saves you a huge amount of time. The third way, which is how I do it, is I go on my X Leads account. You have to have the Pro or the X plan, and you can pull up tax delinquencies right in there. Now, it's a little bit delayed, but here's the good news. A lot of people won't tell you this. You only got to pull tax delinquencies once a year. The list does. Now, can you get an updated tax delinquency list? You can. Only when people pay their taxes, they come off. I don't care. So I'm in the state of Florida where I do this locally. I also do this virtually. It's very different in every other state outside of Florida. It's like the Wild West. But our taxes are due at the end of November. And then by, I think it's the end of March 30 or 31st, they become delinquent and they hit that list. I only got to pull this list once. That's the beauty of it. So like you don't have to constantly refresh and do that list. So it's not nearly as important. That's why I love the tax delinquency list for wholesaling, because I don't have to constantly refresh it and do it. You can if you want to do it, but like it's only going to minimize your list. It doesn't grow. It only shrinks as people pay off their taxes. And honestly, if someone's 2 years behind on their taxes, there's probably other issues on the house. So it is the perfect wholesaling list. This is why I love the tax delinquency list. Now, the last one is number 5 is, okay, how do we market to these lists? And you've got to understand some of the basics. People on tax delinquencies tend to avoid people at all costs. They avoid phone calls, they avoid mail. And if you understand this, if they owe on property taxes, they typically owe on a lot of other bills. And so they're very hesitant, very shy of anyone who just reaches out to them. So you have to be aware of it. Now, the easiest one mechanically is going to be do cold calling or doing texting. Now, the cold calling is going to be tough because they don't answer their phone. The texting is, I think it's actually better. It's very scalable. You can do it inside your XLeads Ninja account. Doesn't cost you really anything extra. It's a very minor amount of money. I can take a 20,000 list that we recently did. I put it in there. It cost me a couple $100 and I click one button and I send them all out. I only got to get a 1 to 2% response rate and I get a deal out of it every time. I'm not making guarantees. You're going to have to put yourself out there, but I'm just telling you, this is one of the easiest lists to target. Now, cold calling is a bit of a challenge, but people do make it work. Texting, you have to convert them and get them on the phone. But my third favorite way to do it is really just reverse driving for dollars. Put a note on the door and have people call you. Hey, got a quick question about your house. This is Rick. Give me a call. Remember, the more mysterious, the more you make the prospect curious, the better your odds on them responding to you. You're going to have to do things a little bit differently because these people avoid people on purpose. But remember, you're there to help them, not hurt them. So if you can introduce something that will actually help solve their problem, put some money in their pocket, and you create a win-win situation, tax delinquencies, guys, are golden. So let me know in the comments, are you jumping on tax delinquencies? I've given you the 5 simple step process of what they are, how they work, the criteria, how to pull them, and most importantly, how to market to them. I like reverse driving for dollars. It is a pain in the butt, but we get our highest response to it because they're avoiding the phones. And they typically text occasionally, you get them to connect, but trying to get them from text on the phone is always a challenge. But guys, when we get these deals, they are wonderful. And no, you don't have to buy these properties before they go to auction. You simply wholesale it, and whatever the amount due on the taxes that are delinquent will be minused off from the seller's proceeds. It's really that simple. You don't have to go write a big fat check. You don't have to buy the house at auction. You don't have to pay off the property taxes. Remember, wholesaling is about minimizing your risk and maximizing your reward. You guys need to go out and attack this list. It's my favorite. Why? Because it's low-hanging fruit. And where there's fire, it's much easier to find the smoke. Tax delinquency, guys, some of the most motivated lists you can ever deal with. And guys, this will never, ever change. Remember, the sooner you learn the fundamentals of wholesaling, the better off you'll be as a wholesaler. You have to learn how to market to people. It's okay to get help from other sources, but you need a strong foundation on how to get these types of leads. And then you can find other ways to scale it. You can hire employees. You can have companies help you out, but you've got to understand the foundation. I want you to master tax delinquency. I love it. It's never going to go away. As long as they have property taxes due, this will constantly be a wholesale lead source. I want you to go out and attack it. Let me know if you're going to do that in the comments. And as usual, if you got value from this video, do me a favor. Smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. This is Rick, and I'll see you in the next video.